Hello and welcome. I'm sure every one of us have felt the need for a nap between a long day at work. Have you ever thought of going for a nap when you are stuck in a problem? Does the phrase sleep over your problem really have an effect? Today, we will learn about the benefits of nap and the science behind it. But before we dive into the world of napping, we have to first understand how our sleep mechanism work. Our sleep structure is divided into two main categories. The first is the non-rapid eye movement sleep, also known as non-REM sleep. There are four stages in this category. Stage 1 is known as the awake stage. During awake period, we are fully awake and our muscles are the most active. Stage 2 contains sleep spindles, which are short multiple electrical impulses, and K complex, which are huge spikes of brain activity. Stage 3 and 4 of sleep is known as the deep slow wave sleep. It is very important for our declarative memory and for procedural visual skills as it stabilizes the memory and prevents us from forgetting. The second main category of sleep is known as rapid eye movement sleep, or known as also REM sleep. It is during this stage of sleep that we dream. Since we are close to the waking period again, the brain starts processing information such as memories, emotions, and experiences, which results in dreaming. REM sleep is also helpful in stabilizing our mental health. Okay, we have talked a lot about the overall sleep mechanism. Let's come to the question, how does nap help us, and is there any evidence that nap enhances our memory consolidation? A nap is a short period of sleep usually taken during the day. 1/3 of American adults nap. Many people find nap an effective way to relax and recharge, while others find nap unhelpful and disruptive to their sleep. We will go over some of the experiments to show how naps can be helpful to young audiences here. For our first experiment, we will see about preschoolers children 3 to 5 years old who were given a special declarative memory task to remember where on a grid an object is located. One group of children napped while the other group stayed awake. After an afternoon nap, children who had napped performed better than the children who had not napped. The differences persisted about after 24 hours, meaning a normal night of sleep does not even out differences between nap and non-nap groups. Greatest benefit was for children who napped regularly. Stage 2 non-REM spindle density was positively correlated with change in recall accuracy. The more spindles, the greater the improvement during post-nap test. For our second experiment, a sleep scientist and his colleague conducted two experiments. They wanted to check whether infants nap within 4 hours of learning enhance their memory for a memory task, and if differences between nap and no-nap groups remained after 24 hours. Three main categories of infants, baseline, nap, and no-nap were tested in this experiment. The experiment of memory task was an imitation task where the infants watched a puppet perform 3 actions and then imitate the target actions after touching the puppet. The result, as you can see, showed the incredible power of napping. The only children who napped showed significant learning. Also, infants remembered more 24 hours later if they napped after learning. For our third and final experiment, students 10 to 5 years old were given a 15-minute lecture in the morning and then either given 2 hours to nap or to go to class. Students were tested on the material about the lecture and then again either 1, 2, or 5 days after the lecture. The result showed that students remembered information 1 day later, regardless of whether they had napped or not. Students tested after 2 and 5 days only did significantly better if they had taken a nap after the lecture. At 5 days, performance for non-NAP students was at the same level as before the lecture. These results suggest that the daytime napping can enhance learning at school. Specifically, the nap after lecture protected the information learned from forgetting over the course of 5 days.
Now, let's discuss how naps can boost your creativity. So both non-REM and REM sleep have impacts on creativity, but REM sleep in particular is important for making new connections and associations that can inspire creativity. And this is why a 90-minute daytime nap tends to be more beneficial than a shorter nap for creativity, as it allows you to go through the entire sleep cycle, including REM sleep. But shorter naps are still useful for those who have insomnia. And so during REM sleep, things that you learn throughout the day are interconnected and related in new ways with old information. And this process is sort of like gathering the pieces of a jigsaw puzzle together throughout the day while you're learning new information. And when you sleep, the assembling of the jigsaw puzzle takes place. When you wake up, this process helps you see the bigger picture of what you learned or experienced. And it also allows you to see the more distant, harder to see associations that would otherwise be difficult to discover while being awake. So we should be taking advantage of this creative insight in our lives more, right? Well, an example of a person who did that was Thomas Edison, the famous inventor. He was said to not be a big nighttime sleeper, but he was a habitual napper. And so on his property, he placed many of these nap cots so that he could take a nap in the attempt to discover the solutions to the problems that he was working on. And an impressive thing that he did was how he designed a setup where he could be sitting down at his desk, coming up with a new idea, and he would grab some ball bearings in one hand and he would nap with that hand propped up on his elbow. And when he would begin to fall asleep, he would drop the ball bearings, which would wake himself up, and then he would write down all his creative ideas that came to him. And Edison knew that if he could enter this zone of being half asleep and half awake, which he coined the genius gap, he could access all the creative genius of his mind. And this is possibly why he was such an extraordinary inventor.
Now we will teach you how to nap like a pro. We want to take a nap that's actually restful and does not mess with your sleep at night. The first tip that we give you is that keep your naps short. Set an alarm for 15 to 30 minutes. The longer you sleep, the more likely you're going to be groggy when you wake up. Aim to keep naps on the shorter side so that you wake up feeling recharged and ready for the next part of the day. The second tip that we give you is that schedule your naps earlier in the day. One reason that naps, controversially, has such a bad reputation is that they're known for being nightly sleep busters. But if you are able to schedule naps in the late morning or early afternoon, such like before 3 p.m., you can reduce the chances of being wide awake when it's time for you to sleep at night. The third tip is that block out light and sound as if you're sleeping at night. There's significant research that sound and light disrupt sleep. If you only have 30 minutes, you want to have an efficient nap as much as possible. So consider grab an eye mask to block out any light and earbuds if you can find a quiet spot. The next tip that we'll give you is that nap lying down. While you can get your naps in anywhere where they fit in, it's actually best to actually lying down so that you're not sleeping in an awkward position, like these two guys. When you lie down, it allows your brain to move into a deeper sleep a bit more seamlessly. Get horizontal and embrace napping so that you get the most of it. But you may still say, I still wake up tired after nap. What else should I do? So here we give you 2 more tips to do for a refreshed nap. The first one is that have a coffee naps. Consider having some caffeine before a nap. If you really think you'll have trouble waking up, consider drinking a bit of soda or coffee before a nap. Well, this might sound a bit counterintuitive, but caffeine takes about 30 minutes to perk you up, so it should coincide well with your wake-up time. The next tip is that do something to energize yourself when you wake up. You should schedule a few extra minutes to shake off disorientation before easing back into a routine. This can involve splashing water on your face or going to a room with bright light. And then last, I would definitely say, enjoy your nap. Giving yourself permission or self-care can be a challenge. It's easy to believe that you don't deserve rest or relaxation, or that you don't have enough time to hit the pause button for 30 minutes. However, if you are able to carve out time for yourself, enter into each nap you take with a spirit of enjoyment, you definitely deserve rest, even if it's happening in the middle of the day, since it's good for you. Though it can be difficult to find the time, it will serve to make you more productive and, hopefully, feel a bit more restored when you get back to your day.